GM. GM. Why is the delayed price updates? What the fuck's up with that? The Binance price feeds are wrecked. What a shock. Let's go to the Coinbase one. There we go. So GM. I'm going to start today by talking about Ethereum, not Bitcoin. Change things up. So obviously, out of the blue yesterday, there was an announcement that Ethereum, as you can see here with ETHBTC, announcement that expectation for Ethereum is that the ETF is now more likely than not to get approved. Now, of course, that's not the same as saying it is approved, of course, but people always jump to conclusions, go from one extreme to the other. But this is a really good example of pricing, the inefficiency, positioning, and how something has to reprice to new information. This was genuinely, clearly, you can tell by the chart, this was genuinely unexpected news that very few people knew about. Even the ETF issuers themselves. This is how the SEC works, right? The guys who are applying, or should I say ETF applicants, the guys applying, some of them were even on interviews as recently as a couple of weeks ago saying they're not expecting the ETF in May. They were saying that, it's not, the process is not the same as the Bitcoin one, and blah, blah, blah. And so to then have this kind of complete 180, and you see that repricing, the first thing to say, this is not degenerate gambling, this part. I know when you trade crypto long enough, you think that every big candle is people getting wrecked, right? Oh, it's shorts getting wrecked. And then it's also all these idiot, degen, retards aping in. This isn't that. This is repricing. This is the market reacting extremely quickly to the prospect of an Ethereum ETF being real. And if an Ethereum ETF is real, it should be 3,600, not 3,000, 3,100. That's it. And that's a pretty fair move, right? Remember the price action on Bitcoin moving into its ETF. And also the fact here was the expectation just a day ago, 24 hours ago, was that Ethereum's ETF would probably get rejected and maybe even ETH would get labeled as security officially by the SEC in the rejection notice, which would be terrible for Ethereum. So you've got a couple of things that have happened here. You want to look deeper, right? You don't just want to focus on the first order effect, what happened. The odds have changed. You want to think beyond that and understand what the narrative is going to become now and where that's going to lead to in future. This is very important. So the narrative currently for Ethereum or for the market is going to be Ethereum ETF, right? If you want to play this best, you can focus on Ethereum from a holding and trading perspective once your systems tell you to. So you should, find some reasonable expectation that Ethereum has a bullish setup for a swing trade or a position trade or whatever. Or you can look at alternatives. So we call beta, right? So if Ethereum's going to go up, which altcoins are going to go up more? That's the question people always ask. That's the concept of beta, market beta. Now, if Ethereum's going to go up, what do I think is going to go up more? I think people are going to mid-curve it slightly because if you remember throughout this cycle, every time there has been a Ethereum pump, which there hasn't been many, then people rush in and they get long ARB, they get long Optimism, they get long Pepe, they get long Lido, they get long anything but Ethereum. Because people are like, well, yeah, Ethereum going up, that's great, but Ethereum's not going to go fucking 5x, whereas the shitcoin might, so I'm going to long the shitcoin. Big mistake, in my opinion. Big mistake. You're literally being given the playbook for Bitcoin last time. The ETF is coming to Ethereum. It's not coming to Pepe. It's not coming to Optimism. It's not coming to Arbitrum. It's not coming to fucking Lido. It's an ETH ETF. So, just like when Bitcoin's ETF was announced, initially you had a pop, Bitcoin Cash, right? Stacks, some of the Bitcoin beta. Initially they had pops. But over time, right? They end up much worse off. So that was the initial pop in, sorry, that's March. Where was the October move? The October move when BlackRock, sorry, I missed it there. When BlackRock announced that they were going in for an ETF, Bitcoin went up like 25%. Bitcoin Cash went up 3x. But in subsequent moves, the best move was not to long Bitcoin Cash. Now, it's still done fine. It's still gone up along with the market. But your first play is not necessarily going to be the best play for moves thereafter, right? Since that first pop, and since October, which is over here, since October, Bitcoin Cash is up from 230 to 520. Bitcoin is up from 25 to 72. So the beta to Bitcoin since October, since the October consolidation, the beta has underperformed BTC. And this is what people are looking at now, and this, I think, the mistake they're going to make. People are looking at, oh, what altcoin should I long instead of Ethereum? But look at it. From the October announcement, Bitcoin Cash is down against Bitcoin. That is not what you want as a beta play. So if you're playing the beta, you want to play it short term. The best Bitcoin Cash trade was June pump. That's it. That was all of its appreciation against Bitcoin for this entire cycle, probably. That was Bitcoin Cash's move. Everything else thereafter has not made a new high. Stacks did a little bit better because it's so illiquid, relatively, right? And it has had a nice move. So from the October levels, Stacks is up 360%. So even now with the decline, it's still up more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 200% roughly. So it did fine. But again, look at Stacks and you look at the move on Stacks is probably done. Like, that's the move. It had its really nice trend. It's probably not going to do a whole lot more because Bitcoin is unlikely to have... Bitcoin itself can do fine, but Bitcoin ecosystem is going to find it very hard to thrive now because attention is going to move back to Ethereum. Again, it's fine for Bitcoin because Bitcoin has the ETFs, it has the Wall Street money, it has the billions of dollars and all that kind of stuff. I do think Bitcoin will get affected, by the way. It's inevitable. We'll talk about that in a moment. But when you're looking at Ethereum, this is the time where I think Ethereum has its run. Just Ethereum. And people laugh, right? You know, people who don't understand liquidity or sizing will laugh at people like, oh, you're celebrating your Ethereum, 40% pump or whatever. You know, they're shitting on ETH holders or ETH maxis or whatever for celebrating this 20% pump, I should say. But that 20% pump on Ethereum has added more market cap than all the ETH beta coins combined, right? A 20% jump on Ethereum for the billions, the billionaire whales within that. That's pushed its market cap up probably from 380 to 440, right? 360 probably to 440. So it's added 80 billion in one 20% pump. Solana's entire market cap is 80 billion. So in one candle, Ethereum added the Solana market cap. If you're not playing in the big leagues with the billions of dollars and the hundreds of millions of dollars and the tens of millions of dollars of positions, it might not seem like much, but this is the same as Bitcoin did in October to January. The big players are able to make far more money, get far better returns from the big asset than anything that people play around in these smaller caps. That's not to say you should trade those, right? If a 20% move is not going to make a meaningful difference to your portfolio and you want to go for the lower cap stuff because you think it can appreciate more, that's fine. That's no problem with that at all. That's what we do. You're obviously, if you can find a 100 mil market cap coin that's going to go to a billion, that's a 10x. That's fucking huge. Ethereum's not going to 10x. But the mistake people make is they go and shit on, oh, you're celebrating the 20% move. Guys, like, there are people who have just made billions of dollars in a one-day candle. No one has ever made $1 billion at all, ever, on Solana, or any Solana meme coin, or any Ethereum altcoin, or any Ethereum meme coin. It just hasn't happened, right? Not this cycle. Maybe someone might have close to made $1 billion on SHIB, but they didn't. No one ever realized $1 billion. No single person ever realized $1 billion profit off SHIB. There's nowhere near enough liquidity. It just doesn't exist. It does exist on Ethereum. It does exist on Bitcoin. So you have to understand the different levels of the game that get played. And I don't think this is the end for Ethereum by any means. Far from it. And, you know, that path I showed is probably what... which one was it? Was it the KuCoin chart? No. Which fucking chart was I looking at? ETH. There we go. I think something like this. I do think we come back later on to fill in some of this impulse level and set a higher low later on. I think probably it trends to the highs before that. And it probably chops now. Now that we've got that initial move out of the way, it probably chops for a few days. But regardless, my expectation is the Ethereum move is starting, not ending, if the approval is real. Of course, there is a chance of a rejection. And it's by no means 100% that there's going to be an approval. But the big 180 by the SEC last night or yesterday seems to indicate they're leaning towards an approval. Like, it doesn't make sense that all this would be leading to a rejection, but you never know. So it's not a call to just ape into Ethereum here. The point is, a lot of people are like, oh, well, the altcoins haven't moved that much. I'm like, yeah, because this is an Ethereum move. Now, some altcoins are up a lot. Uniswap did really well. Lido had a big pump. Optimism moved a bit. But I'm more of the opinion that this is finally Ethereum's time to move. And that's good for the altcoin market as a whole because it creates a wealth effect. So most altcoins are on Ethereum. They're not on Solana, right? You might think they're all on Solana. That's only because Ethereum hasn't been moving. Solana has filled the void left by Ethereum. And you've got this ecosystem with some Solana altcoins and a bunch of Solana meme coins. But remember, it's all about wealth. There is not a lot of money on Solana. Relative to Ethereum, it's nothing. Total value locked on Ethereum is $63 billion. Total value locked on Solana is less than 5. And this is the total, right? You can look at market caps of coins, but that's not real. Market caps, fine. That's just a number. Liquidity is what matters. How much actual money is there? What is the stablecoin balance on the chain? Because you can have a fucking $10 billion FDV, fully diluted valuation, market cap coin. But if there's only 4.9 billion, and there's only 3.19 billion of stable coins on Solana chain, that is all that could, in theory, be realized, right? Ethereum has 80 billion of market caps. 80 billion of stablecoin market cap in there. Now, regardless of the exact numbers, it's at least 10 times bigger. At least. It's 10 times bigger in TVL, more than 10 times bigger. And its market cap, Ethereum's market cap, is about 6-7 times bigger than Solana. So everything that exists on the chain for Ethereum, all the DeFi coins, all the NFTs, all the meme coins, all of that, they are so much bigger and more liquid than anything that exists on Solana that it's just a much better place for big price appreciation. So, and you guys know, I'm not like fundamentally, I think Ethereum's shite. Don't care about it. Think Bitcoin's better. I think over the long term, Bitcoin wins. But this is absolutely bullish. This is absolutely bullish for Ethereum. No other way. No denying it. Absolutely. This is bullish. So, again, assuming that the approval comes. Question then becomes, what happens next? My early thoughts, and this could change. So, again, never take anything I say as my, hard and fast opinion forever. But right now, the most likely path I see is that Ethereum continues to outperform. The ETH BTC bottom is probably in. Now, as my plan has always been, I still am waiting for ETH BTC to actually flip into a weekly uptrend, so the bands go green. That's my first sign. As we've been waiting for that since the start of 2023. right? Red bands all the way on the weekly. It's looking like it's going to reverse, but it has looked like that in the past. I don't think this one will fail, but I'm certainly not going to jump the gun on it. I'm going to wait, because when that flips, it's not just going to stop, right? If it flips because there's an ETF coming, ETH is probably going to trend up against Bitcoin for several months, at least, right? That's a reasonable expectation when you've had the longest decline ever in ETH BTC. I talked about this on Weekly Outlook. I talked about it with Ayush on the stream. If you take this as the top, the last peak after the merge pump, Ethereum has been down only against Bitcoin for 623 days, 89 weeks, right? The longest period ever, almost 2 years of underperformance. Even in 2017, 2018, from top to bottom, it went down for a total of 812 days. And if you drag it from the absolute top, it's technically been in a downtrend since there. But if you take it from the last time it had a rally against Bitcoin, it's either 900 days or 630. Doesn't really matter, because the key point is it's had a very, very long, extended bearish trend against Bitcoin. People have pretty much given up on Ethereum, or had done until this. And now they're, probably over allocated into alts or into meme coins or into Solana stuff or into Bitcoin. And you see a lot of, I still see a lot of saltiness about Ethereum here. And that's probably because people had finally given up on it and now it's starting to move and they're like, fuck Ethereum. I'd just given up on it. That's what the market does, right? Just when you give up, it turns around in your face. So what happens next? I think if Ethereum continues to rally up, it really depends on when the ETF launches. It's hard to imagine how this is not negative for Bitcoin in some way, because there's only so much capital and attention. Now, the bull case would be Ethereum potential for ETF approval would bring a lot of new money into crypto. We saw how much money flowed in to chase Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ETF, and that was new money. That was Wall Street money. You saw the CME open interest ramping up, right? You saw billions flowing in, and then you saw the ETFs launch, and you saw tens of billions of inflows. So the market's probably going to look at that and think, all right, are we running this back? Same thing again in Ethereum? Probably. However, where is Bitcoin going to go in all this? If Wall Street starts to now look at, we've got this new trade. All right, Bitcoin, we had a nice front-running trade of the Bitcoin ETF. Do we get to run it back on Ethereum? It's probably going to take some money away from Bitcoin. I don't think people are going to start selling their Bitcoin ETFs. It doesn't make sense. In fact, if anything, it could probably be bullish for Bitcoin ETFs in the short term, because ETH doesn't have an ETF yet. And if this ignites interest again in crypto for Wall Street, people might keep buying into the Bitcoin ETF. It's already there. But when the ETH ETF goes live, the biggest problem I see is that you then have splitting of liquidity. And this is just a fact. Bitcoin has benefited from being the only ETF available. When Ethereum goes live, Bitcoin is no longer the only ETF available. There are not infinite dollars in Wall Street. If you imagine that there's 20, 30, 40, 50 billion of real flows that can allocate into ETFs over the next year, if that could only choose Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to do better. If that can choose between Bitcoin and ETH, you're going to get a percentage of it. Probably 70% goes to Bitcoin, but you're probably going to see 30% that goes to ETH. It's hard to imagine how that doesn't affect Bitcoin in a negative way, right? So where does that leave us? Well, I want you to look at open interest and CME for Bitcoin. And this is not something that you need to look at just today. This is going to be something you want to watch over the next few weeks. And compare it to 2023 as we started to get let's go from the BlackRock announcement. So BlackRock announced their ETF back in June. We're back over here. You saw this spike up. So the open interest is the green shaded section. The yellow is the price. Open interest was 1.7 billion. Then BlackRock got in the game. It immediately jumped to 2.97. So it basically doubled right on that announcement. And it never dipped back below that. It never went back into the 1 billion area, right? it went from 3 billion down to 2 billion. And then as we ripped into October, boom, away it goes. 3 billion, 4, 5, 6, and all the way up to a peak of 11, 12. And we're back up almost near that right now. Look at Ethereum in comparison. Because if you're seeing the CME guys behaving similar, then you're getting the idea of how much interest they actually have in this ETF, right? So let me zoom it forward. Here has been Ethereum's ETF, Ethereum CME futures. We're talking like under a billion, right? 500 million, 500 million, 500 million, up as high as touching about 1.4 billion, dropping back down. And even now, it's still under a billion, right? So Bitcoin has almost 12 billion of CME futures interest. Ethereum's still under a billion. That looks to be mispriced slightly. If you just take the most basic measurement, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum market caps, Ethereum is about a quarter of the size of BTC. Okay? And these are rough measures, but Bitcoin's 1.4 billion, Ethereum's 400 million. Sorry, Bitcoin's 1.4 trillion, Ethereum's 400 billion market cap. So Bitcoin is about 3.5 times bigger. So it's about 250% bigger. That means Ethereum is about a quarter to a third the size of BTC. So if you take a quarter as a rough guide, and you look at then the open interest levels on CME, ETH currently has 800 million, Bitcoin has about 11 billion. So that's about 12 or 13 times bigger. So in terms of CME futures interest, ETH is only about 8%. It should be closer to 25% if you're assuming that the market caps reflect the relative sizes of the two assets, which there's no better measure for how big an asset is than market cap. So if CME futures open interest went to 3 billion, that would be more aligned with what the rough numbers are. And so if there is a CME futures interest increase, you would see also an equivalent price increase, because it would be predominantly buying, the longs would be the dominant side, if there's an ETF coming up and they're trying to front run it. Now what matters is, don't expect Bitcoin to stay at 11 or 12 billion necessarily. You might see people exiting Bitcoin to enter Ethereum. The ratio is what you want to look at least for me. I think once the CME futures, and the reason the CME futures matters is because that's where Wall Street speculate. Remember, there is no Ethereum ETF yet. Wall Street guys are not using Binance and Bybit. Those are offshore, unregulated exchanges. They trade on Coinbase, Spot, or they trade on the CME futures. And hedge funds and any big funds, they're going to use the futures markets because it allows leverage, it allows hedging, it allows long and short, right? And there's no regulatory issues. They could buy on Coinbase, but that's unregulated as well. Coinbase is regulated in the sense that it's a US-based exchange and it follows all the reasonable laws it needs to. But the CME is fully regulated, TradFi through and through, Wall Street listed. That's where they do most of their speculation. So I think the pricing of Ethereum and Bitcoin will probably be fair once you see Ethereum futures open interest at around 20 to 25% of Bitcoins. Again, that might mean Bitcoin's drops as people exit Bitcoin, which we don't know how that will affect price. That could be a negative for Bitcoin's price. It might stunt it. And then if you see an equivalent increase in CME open interest, if Bitcoin's OI on CME dropped to 8 billion and ETH's pumped up to 2 billion, that would be about 25%. That's probably where you would see ETH BTC continue to outperform. That's probably where you would see Ethereum's dollar price go up. Bitcoin's dollar price probably goes up too, but by less, by a lower amount. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. And it's hard to imagine right now, everyone assumed, well, I don't know because it's still probably far away, but I don't assume that the ETH ETF going live is going to be as bullish as the Bitcoin one. Because like I said, once that ETH ETF or the 8 of them go live, you're splitting liquidity. And that could actually be a top. I would say that's quite likely to be a top, because at that point you have the same billions trying to chase both Bitcoin and ETH, and they're both up significantly. Bitcoin's up a lot already. Ethereum would be up even more. That might end up being a local top at least, if not maybe even a cycle top. It depends on price action, and most importantly, when do they go live? The most bullish thing would be that the Ethereum approvals happen this week, but they don't start trading live for 3 or 4 months, which can happen, by the way, because there's 2 forms that are needed. There's a 19B4 and there's an S1. Keep it really simple. Both have to be approved before it can actually trade live. The 19B4 can be approved without it trading live. The change the SEC made, what they noted to the issuers, and they're like, we want you to accelerate your applications and blah, blah, blah. That all relates to these 19B4s. So from my understanding, tomorrow, 23rd, is tomorrow the 23rd or 22nd? Today is the 21st. Sorry, Thursday, 23rd. On Thursday, if you see Ethereum ETFs get approved and the 19B4s are accepted, but there aren't S1s, that's a good thing, because it means they can't go live right away. The longer it takes for Ethereum ETFs to go live, the more time we have to actually speculate on it. The moment they go live and they're available on the exchanges, NASDAQ and whatever, that's when you're going to see, that's when you're going to see the most likely, sell the news. So I think it's not smart to fade Ethereum. It's certainly not smart to short anything. You don't have to get balls long either. You can wait for some consolidation after the initial pump. But I would expect, again, outside of a rejection, which is now less likely, it doesn't mean it's impossible. But the odds have flipped from, like the Bloomberg guys say, the odds of approval yesterday were 25%. Now they're 75%. So it went from being far more likely to be rejected to now far more likely to be approved. That's what the price appreciation has been caused by. The opinions in the market and the positioning of the market has changed, as it should, because there's new information. And from there, I think it'll be Ethereum first, and Ethereum will have its big run, and then alts will do well. Right? I think altcoins will be fine. Ethereum-based alts, they will probably do quite well. There are some second order, third order effects that you're looking at, stuff like Uni, because one of the big knock-on effects of this is that Ethereum, if they get ETFs approved, it's basically like the SEC admitting that Ethereum is not a security. Because one of their big contentions has been Ethereum is a security. We are not going to approve ETFs on something that is a suspected security. If they then approve them, they are basically saying Ethereum is the same as Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's a commodity. That would have big impacts, and this seems very political. That would have big impacts for Uniswap, which is being accused of being a security, Lido, which is being accused of being a security, and a bunch of other altcoins. The market would probably take that and say, wait a minute, the SEC is admitting defeat, so all of these other coins that are suspected securities are now have a much stronger case to not be. And that could be where you see these lagging coins, the old Dinos, the DeFi coins, stuff like that. They could actually do well. They are such cursed coins that I don't know if I can bring myself to hold Uniswap or any of these coins, but they certainly probably would offer good trades, momentum trades, trade the trends in between. But all of this needs to shake out. Approval is not guaranteed yet. Rejection is still possible, but it's less likely. And we'll see how it goes from here. The trend on Ethereum is very strong. I don't see that slowing down yet. I think, obviously, if it takes out these highs, at this 3,700, 3,750 level, there's probably a chance it drops back a little bit from there. But that big pivot level that I had marked that's the key area I'm watching. It was the 2022 April levels that we came up to in this move. We got above it briefly, couldn't hold, held as resistance, rejected it, retested it, now we're back above it. If Ethereum's able to flip that from resistance into support, I think that's where you see your move towards new highs. Will Ethereum continue on then and go to all-time highs? It very well might, or it might reject back. We don't know. But it certainly is a big bullish shift in the market. And I know whenever there's big green candles, it's like, holy shit, I don't want to FOMO in. And that's correct. You should trade your plan, trade your process, trade your systems. But this isn't dumb money, right? Is there going to be people getting stupid with leverage up here? Sure. And that means you can have these, 5%, 10% drops. If you push to there, back to there, 6%, 10% on a wick, whatever. Will that wipe out all the high leverage? Sure. But I don't think that changes the fact that Ethereum has shifted from bearish to bullish. I mean, this is the clearest shift that you can see of all. So it's good for the market. It's probably not great for Bitcoin in the medium term because it's going to take attention away from Bitcoin. And now there's just going to be fewer dollars, right? Make no mistake, Bitcoin really benefited from a weak Ethereum. So since the start of 2023, Bitcoin has smashed Ethereum at every turn. You can see this with ETHBTC just down only from 2023. If that shifts, there's going to be fewer dollars for Bitcoin because some of them are going to go to Ethereum. That would be one bear case for Bitcoin getting to 100k plus. It's going to be harder if people's attention is split and their dollars are split. So we need to see, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I love Bitcoin, but I'm also not deluded. New money has to come in. This very well could bring billions of new money from TradFi, from Wall Street, off the sidelines. It could bring people back into crypto and say, holy shit, this stuff's not actually going to zero. Before I thought only Bitcoin was good, the rest of it was trash. But wait a minute, the SEC looks like they're admitting defeat. Holy shit. Does that mean that the casino's back open? Let's fucking go. That would be very bullish for everything. But we'll see. I'm reserving judgment because every time Ethereum has had an outperformance, it has affected Bitcoin. 2021, when Ethereum went on its big run, that was what stopped Bitcoin from going to 100k. Make no mistake. Bitcoin broke out to 50 up here. This is when Bitcoin was going up towards 60k, right? And Ethereum's push and the continuation of Ethereum all the way up to 4.5, nearly 5k, that led Bitcoin into not going as high because there was a viable alternative that was going up more. People started to chase Ethereum because it went up so much more. So if you start to see Ethereum outperformance, you can't expect Bitcoin to also outperform. Maybe we're in a new paradigm, right, where ETF flows are so big that everything just rises. Possibly. If that's going to happen, by the way, you're going to see Bitcoin and ETH go up, and you're probably going to see alts lag for several more months as these two really continue, Ethereum leading, Bitcoin continuing. And then after that, once the ETF trade is gone, then we rotate into the alts and we pump everything, and then it probably ends. And that's what you want to see, meaning you don't want to see altcoins just fucking ripping now and Ethereum lagging and Bitcoin lagging, because that's a really bad sign. This should be a repeat or a rough repeat of the Bitcoin move. Remember when Bitcoin went on its ETF run? Alts lagged. Solana did well, but almost everything else did poorly. If you see Ethereum go now, you'd like to see Ethereum lead, alts continue to lag, and afterwards, some of the alts, especially like Pepe and stuff that have had really good moves so far, they will get their second wind and an extra move, and you see big moves towards the end of whatever this push is. And I was saying just on Sunday that Ethereum's ETF, if it got rejected this week, it means there's no ETF till 2025 because they would reject them all and they have to go into a new application process. If this is now not happening, it's going to shorten this cycle. Make no mistake, it's going to shorten it. Because once the ETF of Ethereum is live, sorry about that. Once the ETF for Ethereum is live, what's our next narrative? This market runs on stories. Stories are what matters. There isn't a compelling story after the ETF goes live. What's the next thing? Why will people keep coming in, putting billions of dollars in? They're probably not gonna, right? It will launch. You might get a lot of inflows. It might continue higher from the first few weeks after launch. But beyond that, it's hard to see where the next wave comes from. We can have more waves. Maybe it's a Trump win after the election. Maybe it's a new round of quantitative easing by the Fed. But, we are not early in the cycle. This has probably accelerated it. We're probably beyond halfway now. And the next few months are probably going to have a lot of opportunity. Make no mistake. The last thing I'll say. like I said last night in my lesson, and I said in trading analysis, if these ETFs get approved this week, we are moving into probably a phase of several months of bull market up, and that's your opportunity to make a lot of money, good trades, good price appreciation, big pumps. It should be long only. Fucking forget shorts, absolutely. And you should be looking to take profit when you see big moves on your coins and see where it goes from there. How long will it last? I don't know. The Bitcoin ETF rally lasted really from October until March. That was 6 months. Is the ETH ETF rally going to be the same? Probably not. I would not expect it to be as sustained. Could it be 3 months? Sure. That would take us into June, July, August. That would take us towards the just before the election, into September maybe. Where does it go from there? I don't know. And it doesn't mean that we're only going to go up from here. There's going to be pullbacks, liquidations, chop, all that kind of stuff. But if you're looking at the risks, the market, even though it's pumped, it's not going to flip to fully bullish super fast, right? Most coins here are still at neutral funding. There's large caps, mid caps, some of them starting to show little bits of higher funding, small caps. But broadly, the market's still pretty balanced. You're not seeing like enormous, FOMOing in with massive high funding. That will change though. You give it a couple of weeks, you're going to see people getting long again, leverage coming in again. But remember that when the leverage comes in, when the funding rates rise, it doesn't mean it's the end. If we put on like you can only see a month on the funding. I want to see longer. Let's go to Coinalyze. If you go and look at altcoins, Bitcoin's funding has flipped positive, right? So look at funding rate global, take off open interest. You can see here now, this is Bitcoin's funding rate after having been below neutral for quite a while. It's now flipped back above 0.0145, that's above neutral. Altcoin, take out Bitcoin. Altcoin funding is well above neutral already, so the market is reacting straight away. When I say well above, you can see this. It's minimal compared to what we're at. This is where altcoin funding is today. This is where Bitcoin funding is today. Since October, we had Bitcoin spiking above those levels several times. So we have had periods where sustained high funding can happen and price goes up. Altcoins as well, they ran hot for 5 or 6 months almost with a dip in between. We had here big pushes in open interest, or in funding, sorry. But remember, that was close to the top. So we're just crawling back out of being low to neutral. This is not like the time to think, holy shit, it's all over. But the starting gun has been fired, the starting pistol. Assuming Ethereum gets approved, if we get a rejection, you're going to see a nasty retracement. But let's see how that plays. We'll know that on Thursday. There'll probably be some more rumors. The news is psyops. Don't be surprised if you hear rumors of rejection today. Don't forget, Bitcoin had rumors of approval and rejection 3 times in the lead up to its ETF, like over here. In the days leading up to it, you had this flush down here. This is when there was rumors of rejection. This is when there was the early approval message. And then this was the actual go live. You had over here as well, I think, rumors of rejection. So in the lead up to these things, you get volatility in both directions. Doesn't just mean it's all up only. And of course, Bitcoin did a 23% decline after the ETFs got launched before it continued going higher. So be patient, play your systems, don't FOMO, don't leverage, don't over leverage, spot. If you're using leverage, it should be perpetual futures trades. You should have a stop loss. You should have a plan. Where do I get in? Where do I get out? What's my validation? And treat this no differently to anything. You're a trader. You trade. The news is fine. Okay, news is great. But you only trade when your systems tell you. What else? That's about it. They're my initial thoughts. I think the only logical move is to be long here. So hold spot, continue to hold spot. And your trades, swing trades and all that, you should be looking at longs. It doesn't mean you get long right now. You should ideally be looking to buy dips. You should be ideally looking to get in on corrections or consolidations and trading the trend. And whether you like it or not, like again, I'm not an ETH maxi, but ETH is going to be the one to focus on. Don't mid-curve it. It's an ETH market now. That's it. It just is. It doesn't mean ETH is going to just moon straight away to 5k, but certainly the capital flowing in is probably going to chase ETH, probably to the detriment of Bitcoin. And it's funny because remember I've been saying now for basically since over here, since below 64, I said if Bitcoin flips 64 and is able to consolidate here, that's why I got long. So I'm in a swing trade on Bitcoin. By the way, I'm still on that swing trade. I'm still in Bitcoin. I'm sticking to my Bitcoin plan, which is all-time high. If it rejects off all-time high, then I'll close the trade. Meaning, if Bitcoin makes it to all-time high but fails, comes back inside, I'll close the swing trade. And if Bitcoin doesn't have a big breakout and comes back in here and goes for more chop and consolidation, that would actually make sense to me now with the Ethereum move. Because Bitcoin trying to break towards 80k might not be able to happen this time on this push because of Ethereum, as people rip Ethereum to 4, 4.5, 5, whatever. But we'll see. Right. Play it day by day, week by week on your trades, on your systems, and focus on those. If you go in for Ethereum, again, my main interest in Ethereum is when it actually flips this into an uptrend. So that's what I'm looking for. And then if you're looking at Ethereum dollar, bands are green again. So we've got daily bands green with a big impulse candle. There's your trend to follow. What happens when it flips the bands to green? You follow the trend, right? Bitcoin is the same. Bitcoin's actually still much stronger than Ethereum because it has been stronger for weeks now. We've got the Bitcoin, let me get rid of this. We've got the Bitcoin bands, they've gone green, we're above them, we're holding, we're pushing up towards the highs. We flipped 70k, so 70k is now actually not resistance, it's currently, we're above it. Are we going to consolidate here and then have a proper breakout? Are we going to have a rejection? We don't know. All that will become clear over the next few days and weeks. Also, if you remember, 2 more months of Bitcoin is what I would expect. My initial plan was Bitcoin takes the highs, it falls back, and then it goes again. Because we had this nice decline, consolidation, we move up, we do an equivalent amount, we push back, we go to here, we go to there, we break out. That would be my ideal. But this news might just kick us into overdrive. We might see breakouts, everything might just trend higher, and that's probably going to lead us into a shorter trend, maybe several weeks, couple of months, few months, and then we hit a local top. Is that going to be the cycle top? Nobody knows. You just trade it day by day, week by week. So that's it. GM. In fact, I'll go back and look at these weekly charts and let's just compare them. So Bitcoin's weekly is looking really strong right now. Ethereum's weekly, very strong move as well. You want to see this weekly close. Where does it end up coming? Ethereum's monthly bands are green. Flip them. It's consolidating nicely below its all-time high. And BTC, a really strong monthly, just amazing monthly. This chart's fucking incredibly bullish, but you would really like to see either it closing below where it is right now and pushing again next month, or a strong close through 75 and closing the month above 75 would lead to probably another couple of months of continuation. So that's the market. GM. See you all later on the live stream.